Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Max Dinerman. I'm the head of sales at InfoReady. I'm joined today by Brian Evans from University of Memphis. Just a few quick housekeeping notes here. So the webinar itself, the presentation will last about 45 minutes, and then we'll also leave about 15 minutes for Q&A at the end of the webinar as well. Quick note, please feel free to submit your questions through the Q&A function in Zoom. We've closed the chat, but we will be answering questions at the end of the webinar. So please feel free to submit those through the Q&A function uh, as we go through the presentation here. So before we begin, I'm going to quickly hand it off to someone who many of you know, the esteemed Amy Gant, who's the Director of Strategic Research Development at Tufts, to say a few words about NORDP.
Welcome, everybody, and I'm delighted to see so many people here today. And we at NORDP are delighted to have here Max Steinerman from our wonderful partners at InfoReady and Brian Evans from University of Memphis. And just a word about our sponsor today. InfoReady has been a longtime supporter of NORDP they're at all of our conferences where I got to know Max and was able to convince my leadership that we must have InfoReady because it really is a terrific tool and it has saved us a lot of headaches at Tufts. I also just wanted to remind everybody and hope to see you in Indianapolis at the end of next month for our in-person conference this year. And also, I believe at the conference, Max will be, or one of his colleagues will be announcing the InfoReady grant that InfoReady sponsors every year. So we are really looking forward to hearing our presentation today and make sure that I'm not missing anything. We're really looking forward to the presentation today. And with that, I'll turn it back to Max.
Thanks so much, Amy. We're looking forward to seeing you in April. Great. So I'll just do another quick word from our sponsor here before I turn it over to Brian. So I know there's many InfoReady users in the audience here, but for those of you who aren't familiar with InfoReady, it's an all-in-one platform to kind of manage selection and review processes in the kind of academic research and higher ed landscape. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go through all these items, obviously, but this is just a list of some of the ways that our customers use our solutions, some of the kinds of processes and programs and competitions and form submissions that folks are able to really automate and organize and streamline in our process, right? So a lot of kind of stuff that's close to your heart, things like limited submission, seed grants, things like that, but also a lot of other applications potentially outside of research as well. Next slide, please. Great. So now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Dr. Brian Evans here. So Brian's from the University of Memphis, where he serves as assistant director for strategic research initiatives. He focuses on increasing institutional research competitiveness through targeted capacity building, partnership and interdisciplinary team development, and funding acquisition. Dr. Evans is a graduate of Case Western Reserve and Vanderbilt University, where he got his MS and PhD. And he also held positions of instructor of vascular surgery in the medical center at Vanderbilt, he was a research professor in the biomedical engineering department there. Dr. Evans brings a unique perspective to the use of technology in research development, with a PhD in biomedical engineering experience as a professor at Vanderbilt and background spanning pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries and investment. His multifaceted experience provides valuable insights into both academic and industry applications of research technology. So, without further ado, I'll turn it over to Brian.
All right, thank you, Max. And again, welcome everybody. Really appreciate you joining today. So as you all know, the research development landscape is rapidly evolving. Proposals are growing in complexity. There's increased competition. There are more internal competitions and strategic initiatives. There's more demand for data-informed decision making. There's staffing constraints. There's a lot of volatility in the funding landscape, as I'm sure you're all aware. And then there's also the rapid advancement and growth of technological tools like AI to support research development processes. So today I want to frame the question for this presentation on how do we scale research development in this evolving landscape without losing the human touch? And so that's where technology meets talent. And so here we're talking about key components in each phase of the research development lifecycle. And first off, the human role, and that's where talent comes in. And that's the active intellectual and creative capacity to identify problems, analyze data, and drive innovation. Then there's the tech role, and that's to increase efficiency, automate tasks, facilitate data management and sharing, and enable advanced data analysis and simulation, and support collaboration and connectivity. And then the key thing here is the integration point, where the human role and tech role are combined together so that tedium is reduced as a human burden, and so that the human role can focus on strategy and relationship building. And then also discussing the risk of if either talent or technology is missing. And that leads to a lack of strategic framing, a fragmented or chaotic process for what you do. It can lead to data overload, burnout, as well as many other things that we're going to dive into today. So just to provide a quick view or an overview of the research development lifecycle, it starts with looking at the landscape and identifying which opportunities are best to pursue, then selecting and prioritizing those opportunities, and then going into the process of actually developing a proposal, submitting it, and making sure that you are compliant with all of the regulations and requirements for that opportunity. And then there's post-submission feedback and capture. That's something that's often overlooked, but then that is incorporated back into assessment and reporting so that you can continuously improve your process. And so research development is not an isolated set of services, it's this life cycle. And when technology, for example, like what InfoReady offers and other similar systems, is intentionally aligned with human expertise, the research development function becomes scalable, strategic, and measurable. So technology does not replace research development professionals, it amplifies their impact. So research development doesn't begin at proposal drafting, it doesn't end at submission, and each phase generates data and insight. And so every phase in this life cycle involves both human judgment and system infrastructure. So just taking the University of Memphis as an example, we achieved Carnegie R1 classification in 2021. And over the past several years, especially from fiscal year 22 to 24, our research funding more than doubled from less than 50 million to over 100 million. But as that process happened, our research development staff did not scale proportionally with this increased funding and the increased load of what we have going on. And so, one of the monikers here is that we do a lot with a little. So we were basically trying to do more with the same amount of resources. And so that's where technology integration comes in, plays a critical role for having technology platforms like InfoReady has enabled us to sustain that momentum and maintain our R1 status. And so this research development lifecycle that I just showed provides a framework to strategically integrate technology and talent. So we'll go through each one of the phases and talk about those key concepts, the different roles and how they can be integrated, as well as the risks. So when we're looking at the first phase of identifying opportunities, research development professionals interpret the research funding landscape and translate opportunities into institutional strategy. And so they monitor sponsor priorities and policy shifts, build relationships with faculty, understand strengths and readiness. They identify emerging interdisciplinary opportunities and interpret institutional priorities and align them with funding trends. And they recommend which opportunities merit institutional investment. And human expertise is critical because opportunities must be interpreted in context. Now, in terms of the technology role, technology systems help gather, organize, and track opportunity data. And funding opportunity databases are a key player here. And different things like automated opportunity alerts, institutional opportunity tracking systems, sponsor analytics tools, historical submission tracking, and so forth. And technology excels at scale and signal detection, and it can identify patterns across thousands of opportunities. And so the integration point comes where technology surfaces patterns and the humans interpret strategy. So flagging opportunities that are aligned with your institution, having the human role evaluate competitiveness and alignment, and building teams of investigators, and also tracking the opportunity for follow-up. And so tech reduces time spent searching and allows humans to focus on strategy and matchmaking. Now, where the risk comes in if either is missing is that you're chasing pretty much every opportunity instead of looking for the ones that make the most sense. You're not going to be aligned with what your institutional strategy is. You can be over reliant on automated alerts, so there's no context or contextual understanding. And you can miss opportunities due to manual monitoring, and people's information is just siloed in their inboxes. And so that leads to opportunity overload with little strategic impact, and it can lead to fragmented opportunity awareness. So just an example here that I want to highlight is not only can human and tech roles be integrated together, but technology solutions can also be integrated together to realize synergistic strengths. And so just a little disclaimer here, I am an unpaid advisory board member for Adam Grants. That's the funding opportunity platform that we utilize that is enabled by artificial intelligence. And so here I worked with Adam and the InfoReady team, and we integrated both of those so that the platforms can talk to each other. And it's great because when we post opportunities on InfoReady, we can immediately link it to an opportunity from Adam if it's part of, say, a limited submission opportunity, or if we're providing support to go after forecasted opportunities that are coming up. So getting into the second phase, so this is where you select and prioritize opportunities. The human role is to manage those internal competition processes, designing evaluation criteria, recruiting and coordinating reviewers, ensuring conflict of interest management and communicating with applicants, coaching the applicants, and interpreting reviewer feedback. And so the human role ensures credibility, transparency, and trust in the selection process. For technology, things like submission portals for applicants and automated eligibility checks, reviewer assignment and scoring. That's one of the things that we'll highlight with InfoReady. Conflict of interest documentation, managing deadlines, automated notifications, centralizing your proposal records, and so forth. And so technology ensures process consistency and scalability and provides efficiency. And so when we get to the integration point, technology ensures process integrity and the talent ensures strategic decision making. And so integrating it where the system collects applications and organizes review materials, and then the research development staff score the proposals and facilitate discussions and make strategic selections moving forward. And so it ensures efficient logistics without sacrificing human judgment. Now, the risk if either of those is missing is, you'll basically be inundated with email-based chaos because there's just so much flooding your inbox. There can be lost documents and version confusion. Having to manually coordinate reviewers is just like herding nerdy cats, and it leads to increased staff workload and inconsistent documentation. And so mechanical decision making that lacks credibility and unsustainable administrative burden are what will result if either of these roles is missing. So this is where we'll go into some examples, and specifically with InfoReady. So on our University of Memphis InfoReady platform that you can see our landing page here, this is an example of a limited submission opportunity that we manage through the platform. So this is the National Science Foundation's Major Research Instrumentation Program, or MRI. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with it. And so it is a limited submission opportunity. Typically, you're allowed 3. This was one case where they had a 4th opportunity around a pressing national need that was included. And so we use the InfoReady platform for having applications that we pre-screen and make sure that they align with our institutional strategy. And that optimizes not only the chances of successful funding, but also optimizes the impact that that funding will have. So before, like I just mentioned on the prior slide for looking at the second phase of the life cycle, is you basically have email chaos, but utilizing InfoReady allows us to have a centralized workflow, and it provides a paper trail of scoring documents and reviewer comments. It reduces the amount of time that we have to spend here in the research development office on managing these types of opportunities. It expedites the review process instead of emailing out back and forth with different reviewers on a review committee. And it's awesome because it automates notifications. And so you can send out personalized messages in a mass kind of bulk email format, instead of having to type up, multiple tens, hundreds of individualized emails manually. And so another example for this is instead of just a limited submission opportunity is utilizing the InfoReady platform for internal funding. And so one of the key programs that we host every year here at the University of Memphis is called Communities of Research Scholars, or CORES. And so this is where we target junior faculty to form interdisciplinary teams, and we provide some seed funding for them so that they can start generating preliminary data and building collaborative networks. And the idea is that this seed funding will lead to them being in a better position to pursue external funding. And this one is kind of one of our key programs that has been very successful. But we also have a lot of applications that come in for this, especially for all the new junior faculty that are starting every year. And so you can see here, we had 45 applications for our last year's competition. And that is a lot to handle. I mean, if you were going back and forth with emails and things like that, it would be chaotic. And so what is great about InfoReady is that you can compile all of the applications into an organized format for expedited review. You can also export customizable templates like Excel sheets with specific types of data in it to utilize in evaluating all of the applications. And InfoReady provides an automated way to gather reviews, make decisions, and send personalized email notifications with those submission specific details. So, dear professor that actually applied, and then saying that their application title, and it includes all of those details in those notifications that are sent out. All right, so moving on to the third phase of proposal development. So here, RD professionals basically serve as strategic advisors and project managers and narrative consultants, team facilitators, and their key activities are helping investigators align ideas with sponsor priorities, coordinating multi-investigator teams, facilitating concept development, providing editorial feedback, developing timelines and milestones, and managing internal coordination. And so this work is highly relational and intellectual. And for the technology role, it supports project coordination. So examples here would be a proposal timeline tracker or a document collaboration tool, shared proposal workspaces, having template repositories, having version control systems, and project management dashboards. And so technology keeps teams aligned and reduces administrative friction. And so for the integration point here, systems protect staff time from administrative overload so they can focus on high value intellectual engagement. And the technology manages the workflow and humans shape the proposal narrative. And so this allows for RD professionals to be protected by technology from logistics overload and also allows them to focus on proposal quality. So risk if either is missing, you'll have a subpar proposal that is not optimized for funding success chances. You can be misaligned with what the sponsor is actually looking to fund. You have poor coordination among your team, and it leads to limited competitiveness. So you'll end up with no research money to do the research that you want to do and all your faculty members are pursuing. And so this, if you're missing either of those aspects, it leads to operational chaos, and it can lead to a lack of focus on developing a high quality proposal. And so again, this is something that we have been in a strategic partnership with Adam in developing a project management dashboard or workspace with them. And so this is just an example of one of the technologies that we use in this process. And so here, in an automated way, it comes up with a specific list of all the documents that are required for submission for that specific opportunity. Because I'm sure all of you are aware that, looking at a specific opportunity, they can have variations and on top of just what the standard guidance is, and sometimes can require special materials or ancillary supportive documents that need to be submitted as well. And so this kind of dashboard or workspace is great because you can assign tasks, you can keep track of all of the documents in one shared workspace. And here it's nice to have a little AI assistant that if you have a question about, can you provide an outline of this specific document and what content is needed? And then it'll give you a quick overview of it instead of having to search through a 100-page long solicitation for the specific information that you need for that section. All right, so we're halfway through kind of that pre-award side of the life cycle. So getting on the back end where it kind of progresses into post-award. So looking at submission and compliance coordination. So here, RD staff, they ensure institutional approvals, compliance requirements. They help communicate across different offices within the institution. They manage risk and are key in last-minute problem solving. So they navigate institutional complexity and exceptions. For the technology role, that submission and compliance systems. Personally, here at the University of Memphis, we use Cayuse, but I know there are tons of different solutions out there. When I was at Vanderbilt, we used Cayuse, but I don't think they even use that system anymore. And that manages electronic routing and approvals, it provides audit trails, compliance documentation, and it can also have automated deadline alerts and track submissions and integrate with institutional research administration systems, which I'll show an example of in a minute. And so the technology ensures process integrity and accountability. So when we get to the integration point, it reduces friction and increases proposal quality and reduces burnout. So the system takes care of all the routing, compliance checks are automated, and the staff intervene when unusual circumstances arise. So you're not having to oversee every single part of the process, and you are freed up to deal with any issues that may arise. So technology enforces workflow and humans resolve exceptions. So this combination reduces risk while maintaining flexibility. And if you're missing either of these roles, then you end up with compliance risk, incomplete submissions that can be rejected and not even reviewed. You can, when you're navigating a complex institutional landscape, there's miscommunication between offices, and that can lead to compliance issues. And also having a lack of submission records because you need data-informed strategy to advance research at your institution. So it overall leads to institutional risk exposure, high administrative overhead, and audit vulnerability. So another key aspect here is this phase is frequently overlooked, but it is strategically important. And so for post-submission and data capture, the RD professionals interpret outcomes and support resubmission strategy. They review reviewer feedback with investigators. They identify patterns and critiques. They advise on resubmission or pivot strategies, and they capture lessons learned. So they support the investigators' morale after rejection and the human interpretation and converts feedback into actionable insight. And for the technology role, it captures outcomes and enables analysis. So looking at proposal outcome databases, reviewer comment repositories, award rate dashboards. So that's the example I'm going to show you in a second. For things like that, you can use Power BI, pivot tables, and Excel. And then it also enables investigator engagement tracking, historical submission archives. And so technology creates institutional memory. So the integration point is the critical thing is that data without interpretation is noise. And conversely, interpretation without data is anecdotal. So you're integrating by having reviewer comments easily accessible in a database that the RD staff can analyze and see if there are trends or patterns to inform training or coaching so that you can be better positioned in the future. And it allows for them to have your investigators receive strategic guidance. And so technology stores the feedback and humans translate it into strategy. And the risk if either of these is missing is that, feedback is ignored and your applicants keep making these same mistakes over and over again. You lose an opportunity for improving. There's no institutional record of outcomes, and you'll have an inability to analyze success patterns and demonstrate research development impact. And so this all leads to low resubmission success and institutional learning gaps. And then finally, for the last phase, so this is where research development has its value, is in assessment and continuous improvement. And so for the human role, RD leaders interpret data to inform strategy, including identifying process bottlenecks, evaluating program effectiveness, reporting impact to leadership, adjusting institutional support models, and informing future investment decisions. And so humans transform metrics into institutional strategy. And on the technology side, tech aggregates data and produces reports. And so you have proposal volume dashboards, success rate analytics, internal funding and return on investment tracking, faculty participation metrics, workflow efficiency reports, and so on. And so technology enables evidence-based decision making or data-informed decision making. So the integration point here is that the dashboards show outcomes, and then the RD staff can identify trends from that data. And then leadership receives actionable reports to modify institutional strategy, and then policy changes follow so that strategic planning can incorporate the outcomes. And so here, simply put, technology provides data and humans extract the insight. And so if you are missing this, then you have data that exists, but it's not interpreted, so there's no context. You can miss strategic opportunities, and it increases burden because of manual reporting. And then you have gaps with incomplete data sets. And this all leads to basically a lack of being able to demonstrate the impact of what research development does. And so that in turn makes a weak case for institutional investment in what research development in and of itself. And so this leads to data without meaning and an invisible impact for research development. So the big line here is that mature research development offices move from reactive support to data-informed strategy. And so this is the example I wanted to show. So we utilize Cayuse, and that has all of our submission records incorporated into it. And then what we do is we take that and we integrate it with a Power BI dashboard. So it exports all of our data from the Cayuse submission system. And then we put it into this visualized format with different types of data dashboards. So this is just one example here looking at the number of awards per fiscal year by month, and you can filter it by different fiscal years, filter it by different schools and colleges or departments, and you can even get down to just individual investigator or PI level analysis. And so this is another example of technology integration where we're integrating Cayuse system data and importing it into a custom Power BI dashboard so that we can gain insights from it. All right, so now looking at practical takeaways from looking at the research development lifecycle through this lens of the technology and human roles. So if you want to capitalize on what you can learn and how you can optimize integrating technology and talent is to map your current research development lifecycle. And you have to honestly assess what the human and tech roles are in each stage of the research development lifecycle at your institution. And each institution is unique in terms of their position and status. Some are emerging research institutions and others are massive R1 institutions that have over $1 billion endowments, and it's comparing apples to oranges. And so by doing an honest assessment, you can identify where those friction points are, basically a research development needs assessment. And then you can identify through that solutions that are strategic in terms of balancing the human and technology role specific to your situation. And through that process, you want to focus on determining what your process problems, what are communication problems, and where there are technology gaps. And so you can start implementing changes with this, but don't try and do everything at once, is my suggestion. Start with one high impact area. For us, faculty engagement was a huge one. And so that's something that we're constantly looking at. And you need to make sure that you communicate early and often, and that you need to define success metrics. How are you going to evaluate yourself and see what your outcomes and impact are? So you need those key performance indicators or KPIs defined at the outset. And speaking of those KPIs, the technology landscape, especially in specific to research development, is completely saturated, and it just seems to be advancing at an accelerating rate. And so there are so many choices out there. And so how do you optimize your technology solution choice? And how do you choose the right technology in this saturated landscape? As I just noted, it's not one size fits all. The same solution isn't going to work for every institution, and not every institution has the same amount of financial resources to pursue those technology solutions. So looking at your return on investment in those technology tools, it's going to vary widely. Some organizations are going to see a huge impact from it, and others will not. And so in order to choose the right tool and making sure that you're getting the most out of it, it takes strategic planning, efficient resource allocation, and effective data management. And in this process, as I mentioned before, defining those KPIs and the key success metrics early is integral to make sure that you can assess the impact of your technology solutions. When you're looking at different options that are out there, I suggest piloting projects. We've done that a lot in the past just to see, dip your toes in the water and see which one feels the best before you move forward with a large decision going into an annual or multi-year contract. And so this is just an example on the right side of some of the technology solutions that are out there specific to the phase one part of the research development lifecycle. So looking at those opportunity databases and the tools that you can use to scan through the funding landscape. And this is just some examples. This isn't even an exhaustive list. So there are lots of options out there. And as all of you are aware, artificial intelligence is becoming a part of everything, and that's causing things to accelerate at an even faster rate. All right. Well, I got through that pretty quick. Hopefully, I wasn't talking too fast. But with that, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to attend and listen today. I appreciate the opportunity, and I also want to thank InfoReady and NORDP for working with me and allowing me this platform to speak to you all about this topic today. And so with that, I'll hand it back over to Max, and then we can start going into the Q&A.
Great. Thanks so much, Brian. That was a great presentation, and we really appreciate you sharing your experience with us. So yeah, we're open for questions here for Brian or myself. Please feel free to send questions through the Q&A feature. We have one that came in, and Brian, I'll let you take a crack at this one, and Jamie, we can also maybe add some color separately and send you a separate response as well. But Jamie says, firstly, thank you. This is great. My team at the Salk Institute is looking to leverage InfoReady to help automate red team reviews. Do you have any experience with this or any tips and tricks to possibly integrate this with other tech?
Yes, definitely have experience with the red team reviews. In terms of InfoReady, you can put in those routing steps for the review process if you're going to go through different levels of review, especially if you're coordinating a team of multiple reviewers. But the other way that you can look at it is, InfoReady provides a really nice way of organizing the specific data or sections that you want to look at. So just making sure that you have it in a reviewer-friendly format. In terms of integrating it with other tech tools, if you have multiple people doing review on a single document, looking at those types of things for shared workspaces, where everybody can have access and you can have asynchronous updates to the same document so that you're not sending a document back and forth for multiple versions or revisions, and multiple versions. So that's where I think all of that comes in terms of InfoReady and how you can use it, and also integrating with other technologies that are out there.
Great. Thanks so much, Brian. Another question from Ariel. This is a great question. Brian, any suggestions on ways to convince leadership that investments in tech are worth long-term investment?
Yes, absolutely. One of the first things you can do if you don't even have the tech that you're looking into is get use cases from other institutions. Look at other peer institutions, talk to research development staff at other institutions, and ask them how they like using a technology solution. See if they have any data to show in terms of what impact it's had on their campus, and what their funding has been impacted as a result of that. That is one thing that we've done a lot in the past. And in terms of a long-term investment, you know, that's why I suggested piloting something, or if you can go for a short-term contract, just so that you can go through the process of assessing it. And if you can already identify a trend early on that it is having a positive impact, you can use that as leverage to support going for a longer-term investment.
Great. Thanks, Brian. I actually have a question for you because I know you've always kind of been on the cutting edge of AI, and you were one of the first people that was kind of talking about AI in our industry even a couple of years ago. I wonder if you might be able to share some kind of lessons learned from, as an early implementer of AI in terms of, especially where you saw value and where you've gotten value so far. Um, and where you maybe saw some false starts in terms of how you were trying to leverage AI, that would be great.
Yep, definitely. Everybody is familiar with the chatbots and things like that, and we have tried out a lot of different AI-based solutions. But one of the things that we noticed early on is that, you can get to the point where you're overloaded with it, and you need to be reasonable about what type of impacts you expect. Everybody's scared of AI replacing a human. That is not the case. I am more on the cautious side of utilize AI as augmented intelligence, not as artificial intelligence or as a replacement for the human role. And we've tried out a lot of different ones, but you know, we got a little ahead of ourselves looking into agentic AI and developing AI agents, because I just don't think that it has been developed to that point yet, unless you have the infrastructure to put significant resources into it. But there are still issues that exist with those tools that are out there. So just being careful about how you utilize it, and yeah, because you got to be careful. AI still makes mistakes and it's not perfect. So that human role is key.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Jessica, with a three-part question here. So thanks, Jessica, for submitting your question. So first question, do you manage all the systems that you highlighted today?
Yes, I do. Um, uh, we have a pretty limited staff here at the University of Memphis, so I primarily manage all of our technology systems for research development. But we do spread it out. We have pre-award coordinators that are specific to different colleges. Within InfoReady itself, we have microsites, one for research development, one for College of Arts and Sciences and the College of Engineering, one for the graduate school. So we do have people that sit in administrator seats and help us manage it specifically for what they do. But I kind of sit at using the InfoReady lingo as a global administrator, so I kind of still have oversight over the entire system. But yes, we oversee all of that. And actually, that Power BI dashboard, we had a graduate assistant that worked in our office who developed that, who came out of a computer science program here at the University of Memphis. And that's been extremely helpful for us. And Jen, I saw your question about how many limited submissions and internal funding programs do we do? I'd say annually we're at least 30 to 50 if you go across all of the different internal funding programs, the different types of scholarships, as well as limited submissions like that NSF MRI opportunity.
Great. And a couple more questions from Jessica here. And both of these questions kind of are related to the integrations that you highlighted in your presentation, Brian. So in cases where you've had to work with other system administrators specifically on those integrations, how did that go and what was that experience like? And then the second part is what kind of timelines were you working on to achieve those integrations?
Okay, so for the first part of that, yes, we definitely work with other administrators to create those integrations. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes there are a lot of issues. One of the things is there's constant flux and change going on. We just moved over to an Oracle Cloud solution for a lot of our internal systems, and that has been difficult, especially because there are so many different inputs into that, like integrating with other tech that we have and platforms that we have across campus. So when those changes come in, it can make it difficult. But just making sure that you keep everybody involved and maintain those lines of communication across all the different departments or offices, and making sure that you're strategic about the way you do it. That is key. I've noticed that if you don't plan out in advance how you're going to integrate those technologies and manage the process, then it will come back to bite you. In terms of timelines, for those integrations, it varies. Like the Oracle integration with different systems that we've had, that took a while, like 6 months. But on smaller scale things, I worked with the InfoReady team and Adam on doing that integration, and that was a much quicker turnaround. So I'd say it's not really a great answer for your question, but it's on a case by case basis.
Great. Thanks, Brian. We do have a few more minutes left. If there's any additional questions, go ahead and submit those through the chat, or excuse me, through the Q&A function. So we'll leave it open for another minute here.
Yeah, and if anybody has questions that come up after, I'm happy to speak with you. Feel free to reach out to me. My contact info is up on the slide, but I'm sure you are all capable of Googling as well. So,
Great. Thanks so much, Brian. And I'm obviously also available for any of you who want to chat about your needs to see if we might be able to help. And obviously, my esteemed colleague Carlos Moncada, who could not be on this today, is available to chat for any of you that are already InfoReady clients. So, doesn't look like there are any more questions. Oh, no, it doesn't look like there are any more questions. But Brian, really want to thank you for your time today. This was really great, and looking forward to seeing you and everybody else at the end of April in Indianapolis. So great. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for your time, and have a great rest of your week.
thank you, everyone. Do we need to hang around for anything next?
I don't think so.
All
Thanks, Brian.
right.
Appreciate
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was great to have the opportunity to do this. And yeah, see you soon.
Okay, we'll see you soon. Thanks.